Hi everyone, John Mahoney, and today we're going to be talking about basically a survival guide to getting better sound. Like, what is the things that I think that we could all work on together where we could get better sound at our church. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of things that you may not think about that will actually help you get better sound. So, for example, being prepared. And I know that's like, oh, John, that's so boring. I understand what you're saying. But at the same time, so let's say when music rehearsal starts and you haven't got to church to change all the batteries yet, and you're in the middle, and then people's batteries start dying in the middle of music rehearsal. Well, you have to take time from tweaking your sound for the service off of the console to go down and change batteries. Or then maybe you forgot to move a certain keyboard into place and they're ready to start, and then you have to, I got to go move this keyboard. Be prepared. And this is the goal that I have, and most Sundays I'm able to accomplish this, not all the time, but my goal is, so our band gets here at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. And my goal is, when a band gets here at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning, I am in the sound booth and I don't have to leave the sound booth for any reason. The batteries are changed, everybody has proper cabling, everything is ready to go when they get here at 8 o'clock. And so that level of preparation keeps me pretty open, so that when things go wrong, because they do, randomly, all of a sudden I don't have signal on the bass guitar that I've had for most rehearsal. Okay, I've got time to come down and get the problem straightened out, because everything that I can prepare for is prepared for. And so, excuse me, so that thinking ahead, like what I do is just a mental checklist in my head. I go through every single musician. I walk over to that musician's space. Okay, this is where the guitar one location is. Okay, he has a cable. Okay, he has a couple of spare batteries. His Aviom is powered up. Okay, his amp is ready to go. And I go down each and every musician location, so that if I see something, the Keys 2 location, this lady that plays, she likes a music stand. Her music stand's not here. I don't know where her music stand is. I gotta go get her a music stand. Or as opposed to in the middle of rehearsal, she's like, I can't see my iPad because I need a music stand to kick it up a little bit. Those are things. Preparation will make your sound better, because you have time to work on the sound and not constantly putting out fires because of other things that you forgot to do. So survival guide point number one is be prepared. And I understand that as sound guys, we struggle with being prepared. But at the same time, if we all work together, I think we can all kind of do better together. Number two is have a good attitude. Once again, I know this is not probably what you were expecting, the survival guide to better sound. But the problem is, attitudes are infectious, and bad attitudes produce bad sound. I truly, truly believe that. And yes, if you're a sound person, people are going to get mad at you about sound. People are going to fuss about the sound. People fuss about sound at every church in the world. They fuss about sound. Most of the time, they fuss that it's too loud. But at the same time, you have to know that going in as a sound engineer. You have to know that you're going to get complaints, and you cannot lose your cool on anyone. First of all, it's not Christian, but second of all, that lowers the way they look at you. Their respect for you gets lowered. If they bring a complaint to you, you accept that complaint, you maintain a smile on your face, and you tell them that you're doing the best you can. Now, at the same time, I don't discount every complaint that I get, because if I have one person come up and say it's too loud, which that rarely happens, but sometimes if someone does complain, I'll listen and I'll consider it. That doesn't mean that I'm going to go turn it down, but I absolutely consider it. I just do not just instantly put that in the discard pile. I consider that because you're running sound for the members of your congregation. And if everybody is constantly mad about the sound level, they'll be constantly mad at you, and you have to adapt. Now, there's a lot of difference between trying to please everybody and adapting to your situation. You cannot please everybody, but you can slightly adapt unless your pastor tells you something. And then you absolutely do what he says, no questions asked. Please don't ever make a pastor tell you to do something twice. If your pastor looks at you and tells you to turn it off, please do that. He is a man of God, and that is a respect that he deserves, whether you agree with him or not. But at the same time, if someone comes up, think about it. You be a Christian. Have a good attitude. Survival tip number 2 is have a good attitude. Literally. Survival tip number 3, always have a good set of headphones. Here's the reason why. If you are mixing and you're mixing in a room and you hear stuff and you don't hear stuff, and the room is creating almost like an abstract volume thing that's happening in the room. Sometimes you can't tell exactly what's going on. I have a set of headphones that I use. I've used the same set of headphones. I think since the beginning when I started running sound over 20 years ago, I can't remember ever using a different set of headphones. I use the Sony 7506s, probably the most popular headphone. I know what they're supposed to sound like. They're not the best, but at the same time, I know what they're supposed to sound like. And all of the time, when I am mixing, I put the headphones on and I cue up the main output. I cue up the mix in my headphones because you will hear things. You will hear a vocal sticking out that you don't hear in the room. You can mix that vocal down just a little bit and you take it off, and all of a sudden your vocals sound better in the room. But you cannot hear that kind of detail in the room. So if you want to really dial in your mix, get you a set of headphones. I recommend the Sony 7506s. I think they're around $100, maybe $120, something like that. Cue up the main output. What is going to your house speakers, put it in your headphones and listen. If it sounds really, really, really good, you're doing a great job. If it sounds terrible, it just sounds terrible. And I know that's kind of a harsh way of putting it, but if you put on these headphones and all you hear is snare drum, well, probably your snare drum's too loud. So, number 3, always have a very, very good set of headphones. Number 4 thing that I always make sure that I have is called the Rat. The Rat is I should have had one with me here. It's a little tool. If you Google it, it's an XLR sniffer. And what it does is you put the one end of it on one end of an XLR cable and the other end on the other end. You turn it on. If you got 3 green lights, that means the cable's good. It helps you check XLR cables, but what it really is great for is finding the other end of an XLR cable when you have to do it fast. It's called the Rat. If you Google the Rat XLR sniffer, it'll come up. I think they're about $100, and they look like it's just a tube that's about that long and it's black. And I have that with me at all times, especially when I'm doing sound outside of my home church. I rarely need it here at First Church because I just kind of know where everything is, kind of by the back of my hand. But when I'm going places, I always have my Rat with me, and that's a really weird sentence, but get a Rat because they're amazing. And in the whole sound survival, having thick skin, it's kind of like right now there's a lot of politics going on, and you have to have thick skin to be a politician because people are going to say pretty terrible things about you. Some will be true and some will not be true. It's kind of the same thing when you're a sound person. People will tell you how bad the mix is to your face. I don't really know why. Rarely do I see people go up to a music person and say, man, the music was terrible today. But I have seen many people go up to their local church sound guy. I'm like, Dave, man, it sounded terrible. What was wrong today? But people, for some reason, they really, really stay on the sound man. And so we have to have thick skin. And honestly, it goes back to being a Christian. The same way that there's absolutely a spiritual side of running sound, because you can get disconnected from God sitting up there behind all the knobs and the faders. And when you are at your most vulnerable, your most disconnected, that's when something's going to happen. And your first reaction is going to be, I got this, nobody told me, you can't tell me what to do. That's going to be your first reaction. That lets you know right there you have a problem. And the last thing that I want to talk about in survival to having better sound is to keep yourself spiritually connected. And the most visible spot where this is going to be just really come to the forefront for you is during the music and when God moves. During the music and the people allow God to move and it's flowing, you have to flow with that as a sound man. And so when I say spiritually connected, that's what I mean. You have to be in touch with the service. I'll give you an example. I have, on my console, I have a reverb patched in. It's on all of the music except the drums. It's on all the guitars, all the keyboard, organ, percussion, all that kind of stuff. It is a massive reverb. I think it's got like a 14-second tail on it. It is huge. I hardly ever use it. But what it's for is in those moments when a deep worship song has happened and the Spirit of God is moving in the congregation, I can pull that reverb up. When the keyboard players, they're not playing a song, they're just padding chords, or the guitar players are just strumming lightly, it creates this big, huge open space. And you know what? I am doing my part to help in this moment, to help people connect, to help people realize that God is here. And the same way that the worship leader may be on the keyboard just kind of holding some pads and softly praying into the microphone. And what he's trying to do, he's trying to lead people to the fact that God is here. You have to have that same amount of commitment to what's happening in the church. And using a huge reverb to create this very, very atmospheric, very, very soft feel among everything that's going on. That is you being a part of worship. And if you've ever heard me speak before, I'm always big on the fact that you are a member of the worship team. You are a singer, you are a musician, you are an usher. You are the same level as all of them. You have an equally important role to play. You're just not creating sound. So in my mind, the most important survival tip to getting a better sound is for you, when the sound man realizes that he is a part of a team that is helping create an atmosphere in which people feel comfortable connecting with God. We're not creating an atmosphere for God to move in. God's already there. All we're doing is helping people feel comfortable connecting to that atmosphere that's always there. Okay, so there was two practical things. A good set of headphones. Sony 7506s. They're great, they last forever, and they sound good. They're not super hyped. Don't get a set of Beats. Beats sounds good if you're going to be on a plane and you want to listen to your iPod, but they're super hyped on the bottom end, they're super hyped on the top end. It's nowhere near the representation of what's coming out of your sound console. Those are for enjoyment. Work headphones are 7506s by Sony. Also, get a Rat. Get a Rat, Google it, Rat XLR sniffer. It helps when you got to find a wire fast. And then there's some other spiritual things in there. All right, guys, I hope you have a great day.